recording, the on-demand sessions after the fact. If you have any questions, go ahead and pop them in the chat. I will read them out loud and Christy can go ahead and answer them. As we progress through the session, we ask that you keep yourselves muted until the end, and then you can unmute yourselves at Christy's invite. Yeah, Christy, I'll hand it off to you. You can go ahead and get started.
Great, thank you. So my name is Christy Sugarman, and I work at North Shore Community College. I am the executive director for the Center for Alternative Studies and Educational Testing there. And I'm here today to talk about the Building Bridges to Transfer Prior Learning. And I'd first like to thank everybody for being here today. So I always start building bridges on anything with a message from our students. So let's see, this is me presenting a credit for prior learning programming at the launch of the Governor's Commission on Digital Innovation and Lifelong Learning. And this was in Massachusetts in 2018. There's a brief description about what prior learning is. I'm sort of assuming that the folks on this know what it is, so I won't read that out. But let's hear from Ann Tubbs from North Shore Community College.
I retired from the United States Coast Guard as a Command Master Chief after 33 years. And along the way, I'd had Navy schools, Coast Guard schools. I actually started at Northeastern 107 years ago. And I found North Shore Community College, and I came into the Veterans Center, and I met Christine Babcock, who's the lovely administrator there. And she said, okay, you don't need to start from square one here. We have the credit for prior learning. I met Jessica Kennett, who works for Dr. Sugarman. And God bless this child. She took everything that I had. She went back to Northeastern University when it was still a small school on Huntington Avenue. And all the stuff I had from 33 years, and she was able to funnel it through her system. She went before boards. She was able to get me 33 credit hours. What am I trying to say?
33 college credits.
33 college credits. It was amazing. So I only have to complete 9 classes, 3 more classes, and I'll have an associate's degree in liberal arts from North Shore Community College. And it's a fabulous program. It really is. And where I see it benefiting a lot of people at North Shore, it's a small community, but it's the veteran community. I would say Jessica comes down to the Veterans Center every Tuesday, and she works with all the veterans, and there's a lot of young, I retired from the military, but there's a lot of kids who do 2 or 3 years, 1 or 2 terms, tours, and they come in and they have all this military experience, and Jessica's able to give them college credits for that. So that's a community that I think really could be more explored. But it's been a fabulous program for me. I'd be going to school for years, but just 2. I retired.
So now let's imagine that Ann there decided to go on to, and she really is a lifelong learner, decided to go on to a liberal studies transfer degree at a university. And imagine the kinds of answers that I'm sure everybody is familiar with, depending on who you talk to at the receiving institution that you get. Things like, we don't accept PLA, or this program is externally accredited, or we don't accept pass-fail grades, or I'm not sure, you need to check with Dr. Smith, or you don't hear anything, it's crickets. They put you through to the program office. What is PLA? Or faculty don't allow that. There's so many different answers that you can get that are barriers to transferring credit for prior learning, really depending on who you're talking to in the institution. So what do we do about that? What we do is we build bridges. We build bridges to transfer. And the way that we do this is that we ensure integrity in our PLA programming. We provide professional development for faculty. We educate our administrations and those of our receiving schools on the benefits of PLA credit. We review our PLA policies affecting transfer. We garner state support through education and alignment, and that's really important, and I'll talk about that a little more later. And we go for the consortium, the system-wide or a reasonable, scalable approach. So the first thing we do is ensure integrity in the PLA programming. We can't ask for anything to be transferred unless we can stand up for its quality, and our faculty can rest assured that the academic integrity of our institutions is being upheld. So we do this by first looking to our regionally accredited standards and ensuring that PLA meets the spirit and the letter of the standards that they set for us. In New England, we have NECHI, which is the New England something something something. I'm sorry, I can't remember what the what the acronym is, but our standard 4 is called the academic program. And it does mention credit for prior learning. Some of the regional accreditation standards don't, or some of them have just started to put them in. And this is a fairly recent addition to NECHI's standards. So this says things like the institution is responsible for the design, content, and delivery of courses for which academic credit or degrees are awarded. Student learning outcomes meet the institution's own standards. Credit awards are consistent with policy and course content appropriate to the field of study. So everything that counts for the academic program also counts for PLA programming. Credit for prior experiential or non-collegiate sponsored training is awarded only with appropriate oversight by faculty and administration. So unless you have this stuff nailed down, you know, if we didn't have this stuff nailed down at our institution, we really wouldn't have any business asking anybody to transfer those credits in at all. Another way we ensure integrity in our PLA programming is by using the CALE standards. CALE is the Council for Adult and Experiential Learning. It's really the kind of grandma or granddad of credit for prior learning in terms of the way that we see it today. In terms of standards. So those standards are pretty clear. And again, it's to do with transparency. It's to do with making sure that you're upholding the student learning outcomes as they apply to courses in your institution. It means that you're doing program review. So all of that you think about with academic programming goes equally, if not more so, for credit for prior learning. That's the first step. One of the second major steps is faculty professional development. So professional development for faculty it's super important when considering PLA credit transfer because misperceptions about the nature of PLA credits and their effect on academic programming is often a barrier to transfer. So when I begin any discussion about credit for prior learning with faculty, I always start with the benefits. And those are laid out pretty clearly in the CALE 2010 publication, Fueling the Race for Post-Secondary Success. So this was a study, and they've done a newer one, but this is the way that they laid it out in this one is something that I like. So this study was over 60,000 students at 48 different post-secondary institutions in all sectors. And it was found that students with credit for prior learning register for and earn institutional credits at a higher rate, which translates into taking and passing more classes at the given institution. They're 2.5 times more likely to graduate than their non-credit for prior learning counterparts, and they have higher GPAs than non-credit for prior learning students. Now, the idea is around this is to do with reading the room. So you wanna mitigate misperceptions around PLA as a means by which classrooms are being emptied and jobs are being threatened. That's not the case at all. Credit for prior learning students actually earn more and register for and earn institutional credits at a higher rate than their non-PLA peers. We also, as well as educating our faculty and the faculty at our receiving schools, we also want to educate our administration and, again, the administration of receiving schools. So within the context of today's changing student body demographic, the opportunity for credit for prior learning could attract students who might not otherwise enroll. That's a big thing for our for our administrations, particularly in this day and age when in many of our states the high school student population is declining, and we're seeing more and more post-traditional students. So an example of somebody who might come to one of our institutions that might not otherwise enroll is perhaps what we used to call a non-traditional student who did some college many years ago, but has since been in the workforce. Our students are working, learning while they earn increasingly, and that's becoming an important way for students to be able to get through today's studies, which, you know, our tuitions and fees are climbing, and our students are you know, we're looking at a little older demographic. So this chart shows that there is a 75 to 76% increase in interest in attending college when we add credit for prior learning to the mix. So that's pretty significant. We also, in demonstrating the benefits of PLA to our administrations, want to, if we can, sometimes this information isn't easy to track down, but we want to have actual data, especially where it mirrors national trends. So, for example, in taking part of the recent PLWICHE study, North Shore Community College, we were able to demonstrate completion rates for PLA and non-PLA students at North Shore Community College. And these broadly mirror the CALE results as featured in the 2010 Refueling the Race to Post-Secondary Success, in terms of it being 2.5 times more likely to complete their credential. And those are actual students at North Shore Community College. So that's a pretty powerful chart to show administrations when you're talking about PLA credits and PLA transfer credits. And then it's also important to garner state support, especially for the kinds of system-wide efforts that can make a real impact on PLA credit transfer. So an example of this is we need to support PLA student uptake, which is really, really low, and we need to hit that at the system level. So the recent PLWICHE study showed an average uptake of around 11% of all adult students in terms of credit for prior learning, and that is not optimizing a strategy that is clearly helpful and a win-win-win-win from all perspectives. So again, we demonstrate the benefits of PLA in the wider academic context to our state constituents. Now, if you'll remember that I just said the oft-quoted 2.5 times more likely to attain degrees and credentials with PLA credits. If we look at that in the context of the benefits of education to salaries, PLA credits can, if applied and transferred, cumulatively support better incomes for our students. Now, another aspect of this is that employers like PLA for a variety of reasons, and not the least of which is that it recognizes workplace-based training and experiential learning. And this chart shows employer views on the benefits of ACE-evaluated employee training. PLA can be a strategy towards bridging the gap between what our employers are looking for and what students are learning at our colleges and universities. So barriers to transfer, PLA transfer in this context, can actually be barriers to the kinds of learning that are valued by our employers. From another perspective, barriers to prior learning assessment transfer can also act as barriers to equity. So this slide speaks to the equity agenda, and it shows that PLA boosts completion rates for adult students of color and can serve to bridge equity gaps. And this chart actually shows that Black and Hispanic adult PLA students can benefit even more than their white counterparts. All right, so we've talked about some of the benefits of PLA statewide. Let's turn to the need for a statewide approach. So this slide pertains to Massachusetts, but I'm sure that many of you are experiencing similar things in your state. Remember that it's system-wide efforts that make a real impact on PLA credit transfer. And as I said, this is especially important in optimizing the many benefits of PLA to our students throughout their academic journey. This certainly isn't the case where we see PLA adult student uptake as at its current average of around 11%. So this slide is about Massachusetts. There is a need for PLA statewide. In Massachusetts, we have over 740,000 working age adults with some college credit but no degree. Many are low wage earners. Increasing numbers are underemployed, and COVID really didn't help with that either. Employers are increasingly requiring a minimum of a college level degree in order to employ people. The demand for skilled workers exceeds the supply. Our demographics are shifting, and we have an aging population in most parts of Massachusetts. We have a persistent, we have a persistent skills cap as well, and we have increasing numbers of people of color and those who speak languages other than English coming into our state and wanting to take advantage of the educational opportunities that it holds. So that shows a need. So bearing all of this in mind, our Massachusetts community colleges formed a statewide sector PLA consortium. And that was with state support. That was funded by our Department of Higher Education in Massachusetts through the Higher Education Innovation Fund, or the HEF, as we fondly call it. Having long been recognized as a center of excellence with a 40+ year history in PLA, North Shore Community College was the natural choice to lead this consortium. And by the way, this is the title slide that we use to open our standing monthly meetings. We're in our third or fourth year? We're in our third year of funding through the DHE. So, and before that, we were seeded by the GP STEM TAC 4 grant. So we've been able to work together. Now, this is understanding that Massachusetts is a very decentralized system, and campuses have pretty much complete autonomy over their operations, et cetera. Or they have a very, very wide latitude, let's put it like that. So we have been able to work together as a system of 15 community colleges. And this includes people representative of a variety of departments within the community colleges. So we have in our MA PLA Community College Consortium, we have faculty, we have a student advisory board, we have career counselors, deans, academic advisors, PLA coordinators, enrollment professionals, registrars, experiential learning specialists, and placement and testing coordinators. And this is really good because it gives us a real 360 perspective on credit for prior learning and the kinds of policies that we are all employing. So using the consortium model, and I'll bring it back to transfer in a minute, but using the consortium model not only maximizes operational efficiencies, but it builds capacity through shared resources, professional development, and common practice, and promotes transparency and alignment. And the fact that we're all working together gives us a bigger voice in transfer matters when it comes to our four-year partners and our state U's. So just some of the highlights of the consortium, because some of these are real bridges to transfer. We were seeded by the GP STEM TAC 4 grant in 2016. In 2017, we launched our website, which includes a credit for prior learning wizard, testimonials, repository, e-portfolio repository. And then we had several regional trainings. So throughout this, we've been doing regional and statewide trainings in all of the updates that we're doing, and also as a tool to keep PLA front of mind. Part of the good thing about laying down these steps first is that if you're going to speak with one voice, to give yourself a bigger voice, you really want to make sure that the ducks are in order and in your own institution. So it's really good to get alignment wherever you can. It's really good to try to at least promulgate your practices and your policies so everybody knows what everybody is doing. And again, it gives a bigger voice and more coherence to the conversations that start happening. So in the light of this, and that along the middle is the funding we've received throughout the years, We developed a statewide crosswalk of all of our credit for prior learning offerings. Anybody, anywhere can go and look at that. myexperiencecounts.mass.edu is the website, and I'm hoping that I have time at the end to take you through a little bit of it, because it's been a really good tool for everything from transfer to again, attracting folks that might not otherwise come to our institution. So we developed some statewide policies, and we documented them and aligned them where possible. So, sorry, we documented all our policies and we aligned them where possible. I said that the other way around. So that's a big bridge to transfer, because it's nice and transparent. People don't have to dig around to find out other people's information. And in my experience, the minute that you start having people digging around is the time that you start losing them, or you get this sort of defaults to no when you're talking about transfer and things, because the other people the person that you have on the end of the phone might not necessarily know what you mean, like we said at the beginning slide, or where they're supposed to take you to, or where the resources are for this kind of thing. So it's good to have it like all in one place. In 2019, we aligned the CLEP and AP cut scores in English language and literature, world languages, and natural sciences. We aligned those statewide by faculty, again, so that we could say that all of the community colleges, this is what our cut scores are for our AP and CLEP. And CLEP is by far the most common form of credit for prior learning, and the most widely accepted and received by institutions across the United States. So again, we have a bigger voice if we're all doing the same thing, or at least at least sort of somewhat the same thing. Again, in 2020, we managed to align industry recognized credentials to course equivalencies in health, technology, and advanced manufacturing. Another bridge to transfer. You can say things like, okay, all of Massachusetts community colleges offer credit for, let's say, the certified nursing assistant certification. And again, that gives you a much bigger voice with transfer. And then, we continued, you can see there, we continued to have events and, be inviting faculty and staff to those. So it was about 2018 there. As you can see, we began talking with our four-year partners about transfer and PLA. And our talks are ongoing, and they're by no means finished, but they continue to gain traction. So I just want to show you what you're looking at here, because when you're looking at consortia objectives, it's really good to look at what the statewide objectives might be happening. So you could see how our objectives align with some of our state's agendas that might be going on, and definitely in Massachusetts. So Massachusetts has had a move to align AP cut scores for some time now. And you can see that and this is all done through convenings. It's all done in a very democratic way. We have a lot of faculty champions. So in the slide on the left, so the orange bars equal the credits and the blue bars equal the score. So in the first chart, some students may have received more credit, but they also needed to score higher to get any credit. So scoring 5 in the AP to get 6 credits was an all or nothing proposition. Now students who score at least 3 earn at least 3 credits. And this was in English language and composition, this one. So we were able to achieve similar results in AP English Literature, Natural Sciences, and World Languages, and in CLEP English Language and Literature and Natural Sciences. When you're able to say that you all can do it, or this is what you're all doing, it's more of an incentive for your 4-year, the feeder schools or whatever, that you can say, look, we're all doing this, so maybe we should all get on the same page. This is what it looked like with the industry recognized credentials. Again, we aligned, this is medical coding. So medical coding, the Orange shows the amount of community college that gave no credit for medical coding. The blue shows the award credit, that's before in the top picture. And then in the bottom picture, you can see that we've managed to get everybody awarding credit for medical coding. And again, the bigger voice and transfer, the more that we can get aligned. And this is also actually aligned with, this is also actually aligned with the state agenda, which is to further, and I'm sure this is true for a lot of our states, particularly after COVID, which is to begin to put more health professionals through the workforce development pipeline in allied health. So do you have any statewide policies? This is another thing to look at, affecting transfers that can be leveraged as a bridge for the transfer of PLA credit. So in Massachusetts, we have the mass transfer. Well, it's called mass transfer. And this basically crosswalks, they call it A to B. This crosswalks all of the, well, most of the states classes and community, programs and community colleges to programs and baccalaureate degrees. So, you know, any student can go on here and see whether or not their program will transfer into a their community college program can transfer into a baccalaureate program.
Christy, it looks like there's a question from Emily. The 3 credits a student earns from getting a score of 3 on an English exam, was there also agreement about what the credits were in, like the equivalent of English 101 versus English elective credits?
It sort of depended on the exam. I personally think that's a stretch. I think that, you know, with something like English, in spirit, yes, because we are all, even though we're all talking about English language 101, we might call it something different. Somebody might have English language 100, or somebody might have language 102, or so, you know, so we are, what we call it and the different course prefixes and numbering systems we use are different, but the actual courses, yeah, you're pretty much looking at the same sorts of things. So for something like that, yes. For something like let's say the CNA credential, no, that's something where we were able to say that we all offer credit for it, but we weren't all able to offer the same credits. And, you know, that's because with things like that, not all of the Massachusetts community colleges have a certified nursing assistant credit program.
And as a clarification, Emily says, I'm referring to the AP exam chart that you just showed.
Yeah. So again, yes, even though the classes might be called something different, but essentially they're the same class. So in that kind of, with that particular example, then yes, we're really all offering the same credits, even though it's even though it might be called something slightly different at each college. All right. So yeah, so mass transfer, and the part of mass transfer is to do with blocks. So if something is in a mass transfer block, that you're able to transport from your associate's degree to your bachelor's degree, and it's listed on, you know, here, then you can take the whole chunk of credits in different courses and transfer them over to the baccalaureate level from the associate's level. Thankfully, and the way I'm talking about leveraging PLA is, thankfully, we were able to, at least in the spirit of the mass transfer, it says that PLA should at least be evaluated as long as it's part of the block. So in leveraging that, I would say that, you know, the spirit of the mass transfer block is that if some of those credits were earned through PLA, but the course that they were earned for is part of the block, then they should transfer seamlessly to 4 years. Now, we all know that this is not something that's going to happen 100% uniformly across the board, especially when you have a decentralized system like Massachusetts. But you can pretty much, you can say most of them, like 95% of the time, if it's part of the block, it'll transfer. So if you have things, if you have statewide policies like mass transfer, or I'm not sure what it's called in other states, or you have a more centralized state system, these are things that you can leverage to get PLA transferred from institution to PLA credits transferred from institution to institution. All right, so let's look at some PLA policies that affect transfer. And let's look at grades accepted. So that was a good example about the AP, because if you are saying that, if you're like, let's say, a single institution and you didn't get everybody on the same page, and you're saying, okay, well, if the student scores a 3 in AP, then they get the credit. But then when it comes to the 4-year institution, and I'm just using 2 to 4 years as a kind of a traditional sort of transfer route. But if you're going to a 4-year institution, then they're saying, no, we actually require a 4. Otherwise, the student doesn't get credit. That's the way that PLA credit can be lost in translation, because the student already, they took the exam, they did the AP, boom, they've got the undergraduate credit. But then when they go to transfer to a 4-year, boom, they don't have the credit, and they have to do the course that they'd already got the credit for. So you get in these kind of like just not good situations for students. And honestly, I think that the best way to mitigate that is to act as a system, or at least a regional consortium that can be scaled system-wide. It's a good example of that. When you're looking at grades accepted, again, I say to people, look to your transfer policies for the grades that you accept for credit for prior learning, because that way you can at least get alignment there, and your transfer policies may or may not be affected by they will be affected by the receiving school that your students are trying to transfer the credit into, if you see what I mean. Okay, so here's another policy affecting transfer, and this is a big one. This is the method of recording and transcribing the credit. So remember, we said that in the beginning slide that there was one of those remarks that, oh, we don't accept pass fails. Well, some 4-year institutions, or some institutions, have no way of accepting a pass fail because it doesn't fit, not that it would count for the GPA, but it doesn't fit in a transfer. It doesn't fit in as a strict transfer credit if it's a pass or a fail. So that's can be a very problematic way of recording PLA credit. Some people do it as transfer credit. Interestingly, some of our accrediting bodies require PLA credit to be identified on transcripts, and some of them don't. We always recommend that you do identify it on the transcript, just in the interest of transparency. And goodwill amongst institutions. We don't want anybody to think that anybody's trying to trick anybody or anything like that. So the way that North Shore has got around this is recording the credit as a PC grade. And the PC grade is in the key on the back of the transcript as passing with a C or a better. And that gives the receiving institution more of an idea of what happened with the student's performance. We're not looking at a D-, which you wouldn't transfer in. You're actually looking at a C or better, which you would. All right. Maximum number of credits awarded. And this is one to look at, because you probably want to look at and see if your transfer partners are accepting the maximum or if they have their own PLA maximum. So in Massachusetts, NECHI, who is our accrediting body, requires 25% in residency, which means at the college, institutional credits for associate and baccalaureate degrees. I'm not sure what some of the other accrediting bodies accept, but that's what ours is, and we base ours on that at North Shore Community College. It is very rare that anybody comes in with 75 credits of transfer and PLA, because if they have that much, normally they've finished the degree at that point. So, but it's definitely worth considering. Another thing that's worth considering about PLA policies affecting transfer is the PLA options that you have available at your institutions. So if you are accepting portfolios, but your 4-year only accepts CLEP exams, there could be a problem there. And that's why getting together as a system or as a region and tackling it that way is much the best way to do this. Because if all of you are offering the same things, then it kind of gives you a little leverage to say that the state use should be, or the state user, your 4-year partner, should be offering similar things. And then PLA eligibility and credit application. So again, 2- and 4-year institutions, looking at that, who is eligible to earn the PLA credits? How can the credits be used within the degree? Some only take the credit if it applies to the major. Some only take portfolios. Some, and it's only with the gen ed option. So that's another thing that's worth looking at very carefully when you're considering PLA and transfer. And like everything else, this should be made transparent to incoming students. So I do believe that I have a little bit of time to show you the myexperiencecounts.mass.edu website. I thoroughly encourage you to visit this, myexperiencecounts.mass.edu. This is our MA PLA Consortium website. It's interactive and it's public facing. It features a credit for prior learning wizard for students to self-assess whether credit for prior learning is for them or not, or what kinds of credit for prior learning they might like. This is where we hold our statewide crosswalk for all the credit for prior learning options across the state. I'll show you that in a minute. Also, our statewide industry recognized credentials crosswalk. We've got other things on here like video testimonials and promotional videos and CPL repositories, like I mentioned before, where students can submit their artifacts. So this is an all-in-one kind of website for CPL specialists, for our students, and also for our feeder schools, or the schools that we feed to. I'm not quite sure how you say that, but to see very clearly and very transparently what is going on at our institutions and what we're offering credit for, and also give them an indication if they're beginners in PLA, because we also have been training them through our consortium as well in different kinds of credit for prior learning, because obviously the more understanding that there is all around about the whole thing, the better it is. And usually most of the barriers are the barriers that we need to build bridges over are to do with misconception about what PLA is, or frankly, just not understanding about what it is. So let me show you very quickly before I say goodbye, or before I take questions, or before whatever else happens, our statewide credit for prior learning crosswalk. So anybody can go on here, let's say a prospective student, and we always pick on accounting because that's first. And they say, oh, I've been in accounting for a while. I'm interested in accounting. Maybe I want to do an accounting associate's degree. And so let's click on North Shore Community College. Now this shows you which courses in the area of accounting that you can get credit for what the credit for prior learning types that you can get for that as well. So this shows you that you can get 3 credits at North Shore Community College in Basic Accounting 1. And you can do that either through CLEP exam or through Tech Prep. Tech Prep is our statewide articulations with our voc techs. You can do that for each of these areas of experience for each of the community colleges. Here's our accepted credentials page. So you can look at North Shore Community College. You can see which industry recognized credentials or local or community credentials that we offer credit for. The course that we offer credit for, if somebody has the A+ certification, they get CPS 130, computer hardware, with 3 credits. And they can get that with the CompTIA exam and A+ certification. So again, this goes through all the different community colleges and the credits and everything like that that they can get. So yeah, I heartily encourage you to go to that website if you're interested in this area of transfer and in PLA, and take a look. I would just warn you not to fill out the wizard and register, because you will hear from a Massachusetts community college credit for prior learning specialist asking that will want to connect with you about PLA at that particular college. So thank you, everyone. I'm sort of either winding down, or there's a chance for questions, or I look to my facilitator for assistance.
Yeah, we have 10 minutes left. If anyone has any questions, this is the part where we encourage you to unmute yourself and just go ahead and ask them. We definitely want to have a sort of engaging conversation if you have any questions in mind. Okay.
Well, I've either thoroughly covered all of the information, or you're all off having a cup of coffee because it wasn't that interesting. Either way, thank you so much for your time. And yes, I can do that, definitely. Let me do that. Okay, I can put it in the... There we go. There you go. So the website is in the chat. Thank you. Thank you very much, everybody.
Okay, I'll give folks a couple of seconds to copy that link, and then we'll just go ahead and log off for the day. Have a good rest of your summit and a good Friday.
Thanks so much, everybody. Enjoy the rest